All right, we are back with an emergency PulseWave report brought to you by none other than I, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live at PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger reports. So, most of you who are awake, you woke up this morning and you realized something crazy. Yeah, you did. You realized something crazy. All right. What was that crazy thing you realized? Well, you realized that there was a report that shows that we are at war. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. I do believe that I warned you that this was going to happen. The end of 2021, I warned you about my concerns about the year 2022. I told you that I believed that the foundation would be laid for World War III and that was a concern. I also listed a few other concerns. So, unfortunately, I have been proved yet right again. But there are other commentators who have been warning about this event for years. One of the names that comes to mind is Gerald Celente, back when me and my main man, Charlie McGrath, rest in peace, on the Wide Awake radio show, we often talked about this too. I agreed with Gerald Celente's comments. He said that when they run out of every other option, they take you to war. War is often used as a precursor to change, major change. It's also used to mask economic cataclysms. And that is what you are seeing happen today. So, for those that are unaware, we woke up this morning to find out that Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine. We went from just a few days ago hearing Mr. Putin say, I have no intentions on invading Ukraine. That is not what I want to do. That's not what I'm going to do. To him walking in and invading Ukraine. Boots on the ground, tanks, all that good stuff. All right. As a result of this decision, the world woke up to chaos. Now, you no doubt have heard numerous commentators already on the mainstream media, from everything from CNN to Fox News to CNBC to Bloomberg. You've heard a lot of commentation about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine. But what you have not heard is what is really happening in the Ukraine this morning, this day. And that's what I am going to share with you. This is not going to be long winded. I just want to lay the groundwork for understanding. And yes, you're stealing my thunder yet again. My man Dirt is always on point. Yes, it is all a distraction. So the question you need to ask yourself is, if this is not real, quote, real, then why is the Illuminati index up this morning? Speaking about ticker HACK, hack is our good old buddy. Our Illuminati index lets you know about false flags and things of that nature. For those of you that do not know, it's also already been put out there just moments ago that now the U.S. is afraid of hacks, cyber warfare from Russia. You know, excuse me, for those that don't know, this is that same Russia that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats said hacked the election. The same Russians that they blame for everything. So you need to be aware of that. So you have the news, and then you have what is behind the news. You have the facts, but you also have truth. Facts can be misleading. Truth is always true and is never misleading. But facts do not necessarily speak truth. All right? You can't always just go by facts. Empirical evidence can only take you but so far. Case in point, it is a fact that Russia has invaded Ukraine. That is a fact. Okay? It is a fact that tanks are rolling through their capital. Facts. Facts that ammunitions have already been extended. Rounds have been blasted off. All right, they came in and they were just letting them things go, letting them hammers go. All right, click clacking. Putin didn't walk up in there with balloons and birthday cake. He didn't go in there bearing gifts. He didn't come in there to say, hey, I'm just on vacation. I just want to chill here for a minute. No, he came in with guns blazing. All right, saying, I got the Glock and I'm taking this spot. That's how he came in. He came in on some guerrilla tactics. He said, I'm taking this spot. All right, this is mine. All of this is mine. You were a part of Russia once, and you will be a part of Russia yet again. While simultaneously, China is saying to Taiwan, you have always been a part of China, and you will be a part of China again. I don't want to hear it. Don't talk back. Do what we say. Either you get down or you lay down. That's what's happening right now. That is what we are seeing. Warfare. Now, something that is not being talked about is the actual tactics that Mr. Putin has engaged in. Now, he took a page from America's book. So you could actually say that, technically speaking, this is not an invasion. No, no, no. It is a police action. It is a rescue. Vladimir Putin put it into paper. He wrote a little essay saying, we have to go in and put a stop to the genocide that's happening there. This is a humanitarian effort. This is not an invasion. This is not, no. We're coming in there to liberate people, to free people. We're bringing democracy to a place that is full of genocide and human rights violations. We just can't sit here as a neighbor and see our neighbor struggling and not come in and help and rescue people and bring democracy. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's the same thing the United States of America has been saying for decades. Every time the U.S. invades a land that is not their own, they say we're going here because so-and-so just used chemical weapons on his own citizens. We're coming in here because they're pulling babies out of incubators. We're coming in here because they are housing terrorists, all right, and funding terrorists. No, 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 no. No, we're coming in, all right, to bring food and medicine and much needed resources. That's why we're in there. But now it would be understood if they just came in there and dropped off a nice package, right? Coming there like Santa Claus with a sack over your shoulder. Uncle Sam is passing out toys to kids and passing out food and medicine and, all that good stuff. But that's not what happens, because when you look at any of the Christmas cartoons that, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Year Without a Santa Claus and all you know the ones we grew up on as children. You know that. Okay? You know that. You've seen them. But let me ask you this. This is a quiz to see if you're smarter than a fifth grader. Remember that show? Okay, here we go. How many times in a Christmas cartoon on the television did you see Santa come down the chimney with not just a sack of toys for the children, but also strapped with an AK-47 and riding a tank instead of riding a sleigh led by reindeers? How many times have you seen that? Have you ever seen Santa Claus swap his little chariot sleigh for a tank and make the reindeer pull him inside the tank? And he has an AK-47, he has landmines, he has a whole bunch of goodies. You've never seen that. But when the U.S. in the past has moved into a country saying, we're here to help, why are you showing up in tanks? Why are you showing up with M16s and AK-47s and other weapons of war if this is a peaceful mission? It's not a peaceful mission. And if it was a peaceful mission, why are you still here 20 years later? Why haven't you left? The correct definition of that is called occupation. When a military enters into your borders and they don't leave, that's an occupation. All right? You are occupying a space. You have, in fact, taken over. But then he didn't stop there, though. He went further. He said, we need to do away with the current government there, and we need to install a new government. Isn't that what the U.S. has done and is doing and still doing? Of course it is. So he took a page out of the U.S.'s playbook and said, no, you got me all wrong. I'm only here for humanitarian reasons, and that's why we're here. All right? That is factual information because he said those things. Facts. But is it the truth? We have the facts, but now it's time to look at the truth. So strap in, fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a rather bumpy ride because what I'm going to show you next is the result of what we just been talking about. You're going to see some things that may startle you, that may surprise you, that may frighten some of you. So I'm going to give you a warning right now, okay? This is a warning, all right? This is a warning, trigger warning. Some of you may be triggered. If you're triggered by scary things, then you don't want to listen any further or watch any further. You probably, this is going to get really graphic and really scary. So trigger warning in effect. Are you ready? Let's go. First graphic on the screen is what the US dollar looks like right now, what the dollar has done today. All right, this bar right here is the US dollar. This is what you saw on the screen last night. This is so far today, so far. Look at that. Almost ran the dollar up to par. It hit 97.73, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Is that crazy or what? Now, last night we talked. I didn't know that Putin was going to invade last night. I was just giving you what thus saith the PulseWaves. Thus saith the PulseWaves. Boom, massive upside. I did recommend to you last night ticker UUP, so you could have got a little bit of something on that. I did talk about that last night. Here's something else we looked at last night. Does this chart look familiar to you? This is wheat. We just hit a new high today, ladies and gentlemen. Here's your wheat. Wheat futures hit $9.34 a bushel this morning. Look at that gap up. Yeah. I also gave you the ticker for the wheat ETF, WEAT. Remember that last night? Well, look what happened. Powerful moves as a reaction to this. Who thought that commodities would explode? Now, that's not supposed to happen, right? A strong dollar is supposed to put pressure on commodities. Why is wheat parabolic if the dollar is parabolic? Not supposed to happen. If anything, this bar should be going in the opposite direction, but it's not. Something is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Next chart. Take a look at your Bitcoin. Now, last night we talked about how the downside momentum was increasing. You saw this right here. Look at this bar. I said I was concerned that it's going to come and take out this bearish pointer back here. I said if it rallies first, right, then that means that the drop is going to be even more substantial. But instead, the market continued to drop, did not rally today. All right. So it means that once this is taken out, there's a very strong possibility we could get some kind of capitulation as it breaks the 30,000 mark. And then I think that's when it will just explode and catch a lot of people short. So just heads up on that one. The next thing we want to take a look at is your metals. Here's your gold futures. Look at that bar. A new high has been posted, new weekly high. We had $1,976.40 an ounce in gold this morning before collapsing all the way back down. What a massive bullish pointer, right? We talked about that. But we got to come down here and reconcile this gap right here, right? You are aware of that. We talked about it last night. But just look at the knee-jerk reactions of various markets. Take a look here now at silver. This is what silver is looking like. Not as powerful as gold, but still, you had this spike up to $25.70. Haven't been up here in quite a long time. And then, crashing all the way back down, making a bullish pointer as well. Very interesting, right? All right, next up, we got the NASDAQ 100 futures. All right, and it's already taken out the bearish pointer from back here, and it's just falling. And so far, it's making a bearish pointer again. It is rallied. What happened was the NASDAQ was down real hard, right? And then it went positive like 20 minutes ago and then fell back down and dropped another 100 points, okay? But so far, this is what it's looking like. You can see how the bearishness in the market, right? Let's take a next one here. Take a look at crude oil, which has really been the talk of the town today. Crude oil was up $7 this morning. It hit $100.52 per barrel in the WTI crude, sweet crude, light sweet crude, all right? Broke par, broke 100 before pulling back down to the 96 handle. New weekly high, also enough power to get it out of this corrective state and cause it to flip around to a more bullish perspective. So now the bulls have regained control of said market. Very interesting, right? I know. Next one is the Russell My Hustle. Now, it didn't fall as much as the others, and it's looking like it's trying to build a support. Bearish pointer, rally 2, new weekly low posted, but still pretty bearish. You know, what the bulls have been doing is kind of bidding it up on every pullback, bidding it up. But now we got this established downtrend channel, and we'll see what happens, see what the bulls are able to do or not do. And then last but not least, your bonds. Here's your TLT. All right, so we talked about this one last night, right? So it hasn't done too much yet. It did pop up. It was up like $1.50, then fell down. So it's kind of like just playing around in this area. We'll see what it does when it closes. But that's what I wanted to show you guys for now. I just wanted to give you an idea of some more realities on how the news has affected said markets. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. It's time for a little bit of truth. What do you think? So we got the facts. We know what's happening. We've seen it happen. We know the boots on the ground. We know all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. But what is really happening and why is it happening? That is the million-dollar question. That's what you really want to know. You really want to know what's going on. Like Marvin Gaye says, what's going on, right? That's what you really need to and want to know. So let's get into what's going on and why, and then we'll be done. I just wanted you to understand what is happening. All right. Now, even though war has broken out, the question arises as to why the Biden administration seems so intent on provoking such a dangerous level of tension. That's right. Why is the Biden administration so war hawkish? I'll tell you why. With the global economy beginning to emerge from 2 years of paralysis, Washington seems to be gambling on a Pentagon-fueled economic recovery with Russian aggression as the justification. Did you catch that? All right. War is a racket. All wars are bankers' wars. What's happening right now? The economy. With Western court stenographers' repeated predictions of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, here we are. It is now what it is. What about the U.S. and its NATO satellites? What's going on there? Well, Secretary of State Blinken appeals to Moscow to choose the path of diplomacy, but it went on deaf ears. You want to know why? Because it was hollow. It was hollow. Did they care about the starving citizens in Afghanistan while robbing them of half their sovereign assets? Such hypocrisy is laughable. But we cannot deny, again, truth versus facts. Were someone to remind Blinken of his bald-faced inversion of reality, they might raise the point that Russia has laid out its concerns regarding the threat it sees from NATO expansion into Eastern Europe. They missed that point, didn't they? They didn't talk about NATO's expansion into Eastern Europe. That's not something you're supposed to hear talked about in the mainstream media. That's not part of the narrative. Now, this is not new information, as Russian concerns have gone unaddressed since the end of the Cold War and in blatant disregard of promises which Moscow believed to have been made that further expansion would not occur. Once again, they led them to believe that further expansion would not occur. It has even gone so far as to propose sweeping changes to the European security landscape that would see it become a partner to the NATO alliance. Partner to the NATO alliance. Now, it may be that President Putin's counterparts from the Caucasus to Tehran maybe eventually kind of sort of thinking about what it may mean for the future and diplomacy, but they can't forget the underscoring economic ties they have already cultivated with Moscow. So this is sort of like kicking the hornet's nest with a stick. Well, fortunately for those leaders, both Russia's concerns and its suggested solutions have been scornfully dismissed out of hand, showing that Washington, not Moscow, Washington, not Moscow, which stands to lose everything in a full-scale war, is the side intent on shutting the door to diplomacy. So you think that Washington wanted Russian diplomacy? No, not at all. It might be easy to characterize this as reciting Kremlin talking points were it not for the fact that Ukraine, whose sovereignty has suddenly become so uniquely sacrosanct, has also cast doubt on Western intelligence predicting an imminent Russian invasion. So they already knew what Putin was about to do. Why? Because they provoked him to do it in the first place. With the loudest war drumming coming from none other than Washington, D.C., and not the actual countries whose citizens are at risk, the question arises as to why the Biden administration seems so intent on provoking and maintaining such a dangerous level of tension. Why is that? Right? You're probably wondering. I wonder why that is. Well, have you ever thought about NATO as a captive arms market? Well, as a former high-ranking U.S. official from the Reagan era mentioned in previous remarks, the successive waves of NATO expansion from the 1990s onwards were in large part driven by the desire to obtain new markets for advanced American weapons exports. What is America's biggest export? It's not wheat, it's not soybeans, it's not corn, it's weapons. Now, despite the fact that the justification for those exports, the USSR no longer existed. The function of NATO countries as a captive arms market was also on full display during the Trump administration. You're not supposed to say anything bad about the Trump administration, right? When the former president threatened to append the alliance unless member states raised their levels of military spending, meaning Americans' arms imports, to at least 2% of GDP. All right, so Trump was trying to get them to buy more American weapons. So we are the weapons manufacturer, the weapons dealer, the arms dealer. If you go out here and try to sell weapons of mass destruction from the trunk of your car, you will be arrested and labeled a terrorist and face ridiculous jail time. But when your government does it, oh, it's just business. Now, regardless of whether war breaks out in Ukraine, which it has, we already know that now, or whether it leads to something a little bit more, we don't know if the NATO areas are going to be breached next. What if Putin says, I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm not just going in and taking Ukraine. I'm going to go in and take some of this NATO land back. Well, we're now likely on the cusp of yet another wave of new members joining the North Atlantic Alliance. Sweden and Finland, already deeply integrated into U.S. security policy, are now being touted as likely new applicants. Along with that, a renewed push for membership of the states south of the Caucasus, namely Georgia and Azerbaijan, cannot be discounted at this time, especially given the rising influence of NATO's second largest member, Turkey. Yeah. Funny thing about Turkey, remember that episode way back in the day, I'm showing my age, episode of Private Benjamin, when the commander in charge said, yeah, I want you to send the troops to Turkey. Instead, she ended up sending the troops to Turkey for the holidays. Totally screwed that up. Well, yes, that same Turkey, all right? The Turkey right now whose money, all right, whose currency is pretty much zero, has gone to zero, all right? Collapsed currency. Push the envelope of financial centers. And that's supposed to be opening, I think, next month. Very interesting, right? How is that possible? Well, let's go deeper. We just finished discussing NATO as a captive arms market, but what about Europe as a captive continent? Ah, yeah. It has been all well established that war would cause a wholesale severing of ties between Russia and Europe, the latter deriving as much as a third of its energy supplies from its massive eastern neighbor. Even the economic powerhouse of the continent, Germany, would be crippled by such a cutoff, as half of its consumption of natural gas comes from, wait for it, Russia. Naturally, such a huge gap in the market will have to be plugged, and to the surprise of no one, Washington has offered up its own liquefied natural gas, of which it is the world's leading producer, to assist. Now, such a gap created by an economic blockade of Russia would be too large for the U.S. alone to fill, so it is set about recruiting compliant allies to redirect their exports accordingly. Qatar seems to figure very prominently in these plans and is already preparing major diversions of LNG exports from its traditional markets in Asia to Europe. Now, as such, radical and rapid shifts in the energy system will mean that Europe's consumption needs will be delivered by maritime transport rather than pipelines. Supply will be much more vulnerable. Now, as demonstrated by the grounding of the Ever Given cargo ship in the Suez Canal, even a short interruption will have immediate and long lasting ramifications. But wait, hold up. Wasn't it not long ago that the U.S. bragged that it was going to be the world's leading supplier of crude oil, no longer being dependent on foreign oil? And now they're saying, hey, this hurts us too. We can't get that Russian oil. Thought you didn't need it. All this leaves Europe perilously vulnerable to external shocks, but we'll see handsome profits pouring into U.S. coffers, as well as those allied states it has recruited to redesign their export profile. Now, those states, particularly in the GCC, will almost certainly be expected to recycle their new profits back into the U.S. economy in the form of huge infrastructure projects, arms deals, and financial investments. Finally, it has been noted by some that the North Atlantic Alliance suddenly seems more unified behind American leadership than at any time since the Cold War's end. The fact that a smirking President Biden could boast about definitively killing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline between Russia and Germany in the presence of the German chancellor is highly suggestive that planners in Washington are not unhappy with the myriad opportunities that a Russia-Ukrainian war would create. It almost causes one to wonder if such a crisis were not currently underway, would one have to be created? Think about it. The mother of all false flags is flying high in the sky right now. You do the math. There is a difference between fact and fiction, and there's a truth between facts and truth. They don't always align. Truth will always be truth, but facts can be massaged. And that is where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. Today's market close will be extremely important. Since we've been talking, the NASDAQ has turned now positive, up 26 points, and the Russell My Hustle is only down 2.8 points. And crude oil is no longer at $100 a barrel. It has dropped $5 already and is only up $3.60 now at 95.70. Gold now is dropped precipitously. It has dropped $50 in the last few minutes and is now at 19.25, falling from 19.76 and 40 cents just not long ago, moments ago. And yes, your silver has also fallen a full dollar from its intraday high of $25.70. We're now at $24.73. Yeah, this is real, ladies and gentlemen. You can't make this stuff up. It is what it is. All right, with that being said, I'm done. I just want to lay this truth on you so that you understand what's going on. Regardless of what you're hearing, you're going to hear a lot of information, but you're not going to necessarily hear the truth. I had to give you the truth, because that's what we do here on this channel. We talk truth. We don't beat around the bush. We deal with things. We go head in. So with that being said, smash that like button. You know what this is. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. I'll see you guys tonight for the end of day PulseWave report, where we take a look at how these markets settled on the day. And with that, I'm out. Peace.